The following program, The Lightning Strike, is sponsored by Mohammed Fahim, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of NewsWeb Radio Company or its management.
Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Fahim, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Fahim.
And again, a very power-packed lightning strike today with a lot of lightning and thunder. And with me in the studios, Kendall Luke.
Howdy, folks.
John Arena.
Good morning.
And Maria Muzaffar will be joining us at about 9:30 with her segment, Beyond the Echo Chamber. But we want to start off with something that our governor threw out the gauntlet now to Donald Trump.
Yeah, we have a special announcement that we're going to play here from our governor. Just let's listen in.
I'm here today to make an important announcement. The world's finest geographers, experts who study the Earth's natural environment, have concluded a decades-long council and determined that a Great Lake deserves to be named after a great state. So today, I'm issuing a proclamation declaring that hereinafter, Lake Michigan shall be known as Lake Illinois. The proclamation has been forwarded to Google to ensure the world's maps reflect this momentous change. In addition, the recent announcement that to protect the homeland, the United States will be purchasing
I think this
Greenland.
is the important part.
Illinois will now be annexing Green Bay to protect itself against enemies.
Of course, our biggest enemy is Illinois.
The Packers, man.
The Packers.
That's diligently to prepare for an important announcement next week regarding the Mississippi River. God bless America. And bear down.
Bear down. You see, our governor is defending us
So,
from enemies, foreign and domestic.
and Pritzker already said in the past that, you know, if the feds want to come down to Illinois, they'll have to go through him. Okay, so
Now, here's an idea, too. Since we're going to be annexing Green Bay, we should also, because Canada is going to be the 51st state, make that North Illinois.
hey, when we start talking about that, then I'm going to talk about North Aurora and South Aurora and, you know, each one of those down cities.
I'm just wondering if Pritzker is in talks with the Bears about being part of our front line, because we definitely need a good center or right tackle, and I think he could lead us that way too.
Okay, on that note, I want to bring in Richard McKinney. Richard, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Pretty good, Richard. You heard our intro. Our governor now wants to rename Lake Michigan as Lake Illinois. What do you think about that, my friend?
You know, it's par for the course. Business as usual.
Richard, I was so thrilled to meet you last night at the Dean Center dinner. Thank you for all that you are doing to stop the hate in our country, especially looking at what is happening at the federal government now. Petty things going on, but I don't want to go into that, Richard. I really want our listeners to hear a little bit about your story. Man, what a fascinating story. So, if you could walk us real quick through who you are, what have you done, what are you doing now, why are you doing what you're doing, and what do you hope to accomplish? So, in that order.
Okay, well, let me try to remember all that.
Okay.
So, of course, my name is Richard McKinney. I usually go by Mac. I was the subject of a documentary called Stranger at the Gate. You can find it on YouTube. And it's about my journey from hatred to understanding. I was in Iraq, was injured, and came back, was medically retired after 25 years. And I came back full of hate. Hate towards Islam, hate towards Muslims. And when I got home, I was surrounded by Muslims. There was Muslims all over my community.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do something. So I devised a plan to build a bomb and detonate it at the Islamic Center in Muncie, Indiana. To shorten the story, I ended up going to the Islamic Center one day and was welcome. I was made one of them. I mean, without me being a Muslim, I was just treated so nicely. And once I started researching it more in depth on my own, I actually found out that I needed to be a Muslim. And in turn, I became a Muslim, and a year later, or 2 years later, I became president of that very building.
Awesome.
And now I'm on a journey to help people through this transformation of letting go of the hatred. No matter what it is, whether it's race, ethnicity, religion, this hatred is eating us alive as a humanity. And it's tough, especially now that we live in an oligarchy.
That's the challenge
it is
for
hard.
all of us, Richard. That's the challenge for all of us. This oligarchy that we are facing today. We need people like you spreading the message of love, my friend. You don't have to become a Muslim in order to love others, okay? Whatever religion that you are practicing, there's one God, okay? And if you can just practice even the teachings of Jesus Christ, He never told you to hate anybody, right? And here, the president of the country who is sitting in the National Cathedral, and the bishop is openly telling him, Mr. President, please practice charity, some kind of, what your faith teaches you. And everybody that is following Trump now dumps on the bishop now.
Yeah, she's saying show mercy, and she's getting beat up to death.
So that is the kind of country that we're living in, Richard. Again, thank you so much. I know that you have a very busy day scheduled for yourself today. Thank you so much for coming on the air, sharing your story. Would love to hear more from you. And as we say in Arabic, inshallah, that means God willing, we'll do a podcast with you for our podcast, the Turning Point Podcast, so we can share your message in more detail with our listeners on the show over here and on the Turning Point Podcast also. Folks, Richard Mac McKinney joining us live now on the air. Richard, any final thoughts that you want to leave our listeners with?
I just want to leave people with something to think about. If you do what you've always done, you will always be where you've always been.
If you do what you have always done, you'll always be what you've always been.
I love that. That's great. Hey, Richard, one quick question, or no, again, explain how can they look at the documentary that you did? Where would they access that?
It's on YouTube. Just Stranger at the Gate.
Stranger at the Gate. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you so much for joining us, Richard. Have a wonderful day. The rest of the day, I know that you've got a lot of things lined up, and it was a pleasure meeting you, my friend, and I'm glad to call you my friend. So, folks, let us continue with our programming. We'll be taking a short break at about 9:20 and come back with a lot of information today. It's just going crazy. Every single day that you get up, this crazy person comes up with some kind of a crazy thought in his head, and then he gets swatted down by the court system, and then he comes back again with another crazy thought. But I don't think that it is the crazy thoughts that we're going to look at. We're going to look at the different executive orders that he has issued and that have been stopped by federal judges now. And we're going to look into that in more detail as we go. And we have another thing that we want to share with you. John Voight, right? What is the guy's name, John?
Russell Voight.
Russell Voight. Now, he is one of the creators of Project 2025. and now this guy gets sworn into a government position. John has a clip, and if you could go
I'll
ahead
set
and
it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So Russell Voigt was just confirmed as the head of the Office of Budget Management.
Yep.
He was
OMB,
actually
yeah.
in the administration last time. Didn't have the kind of power that he's going to have in this one. A little bit of his background, and we've talked about on the show in the past. He's one of the main architects and writers of the Project 2025,
Right.
which is about taking over the government for pretty much right-wing policies. The reason why he was challenged, I think, most by the Democrats is because of this kind of ideology of impoundment and violating the constitutional separation of powers that says Congress has the power of the purse and sets and allocates money, and the executive branch is empowered to spend that money as defined by Congress. So this clip kind of, I guess, it's a speech that he did, a couple of years ago, but it sets up the ideology of what they want to do, and then we can talk about it on the other side. Go ahead, Dylan, with the clip.
So Vogt laid out that plan in a private speech in 2023, a speech that was unearthed last year by ProPublica.
We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. We want, when they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down so that the EPA can't do all of the rules against our energy industry because they have no bandwidth financially to do so. We want to put them in trauma.
So, you can't really state it more overtly as to what they want to do to our government and our institutions that, and in that case, he's speaking specifically about the EPA, but of course this goes across the system. But if you think about what he said there is that we don't want the EPA to be able to enforce regulations against oil companies. These are the companies that have the most power to affect our air quality, our water quality, our ground quality.
Yeah, well, when we have a chief executive, John, who comes on the first week in his administration and says, drill, baby, drill, what do you expect? These guys have no idea about the environment and the impact that we are having. In fact, they are touting out these so-called experts who are coming up and saying human beings have no connection with what is happening with the global weather. Okay.
I just got to pipe in here.
Okay, please.
Well, that's why you're here.
You're talking 2 weeks straight in Arizona, 115 degrees. If it was 5 degrees more, you would probably have about a 30% death rate because of the extreme temperatures there. You're talking California, thousands of acres destroyed because of wildfires. You're talking, flooding and all these other things. Yes, climate change is real, and if you don't do something about it now, there's a tipping point. There's what they call the permafrost up in the northern climes, and inside that permafrost, there's a bunch of methane just sitting there. Once it gets to a point where that melts and that methane gets released into the atmosphere, it's all over, folks. This is not a joke, okay? You can't Trump doesn't care. He's not going to be around for the next 50 years. But do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? This is like the most important existential crisis that faces humanity right now.
And on that note, I was listening to this founder. He was introduced as the co-founder, but he corrected the interviewer, said, no, I'm the founder of the Weather Channel. Forgetting the name of the guy, it is immaterial. But he comes in and says, as the founder of the Weather Channel, look at the credentials. Mm-hmm. He says, I know there's no such thing as global warming.
That's it.
Okay, as the founder of the Weather Channel. Man, what kind of idiots do they think we are, folks? It is just crazy. But we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side of the break with more scintillating conversation over here. You're tuned into The Lightning Strike.
Have no fear with regard to renewable energy. If you own property, either residential or commercial, in Northern Illinois, you most likely qualify for massive federal, state, and utility incentives. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down this number, 630-785-0031. You can have a no-cost, no-obligation conversation with a ComEd Greenlight expert that can help you figure out which incentives you qualify for. Again, call 630-785-0031 for a free, no-cost, no-obligation assessment. 630-785-0031.
Looking for personalized, family-friendly dental care? Visit Distinctive Family Dental in Joliet, where Dr. Sunil Karup and his expert team bring 25 years of experience and state-of-the-art technology to your smile. Unlike corporate-owned practices, we focused on tailored care for every patient, ensuring healthy teeth and perfect oral hygiene. Discover why families trust us for all their dental needs. Call 815-439-1270 or visit distinctivefamilydental.com today. Distinctive Family Dental, 2405 Essington Road, Suite D, Joliet, Illinois, 815-439-1270. Your smile deserves the best.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Fahim.
So let's look at some of the executive orders that were batted down by the federal judges now. And birthright citizenship order on February 5 now, the U.S. District Judge Deborah Boardman issued a nationwide preliminary injunction blocking Trump's executive order titled Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship. I mean, look at the things that they come up with. And they didn't come up with this overnight, folks. Remember, this is the Project 2025 team who had already written all of these things, and they were waiting for this guy to come in.
And FYI, a president cannot do an executive order to overcome a congressional amendment. I mean, or a part of the Constitution. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
A constitutional amendment.
Yeah, this order
that's nuts.
aimed to deny U.S. citizenship to children born in the United States to undocumented immigrants and temporary visitors after February 19, 2025. I wonder what that makes Barron Trump now, because Melania, when she came in, was undocumented, right? I mean, she came in on some kind of a
special visa
for models and stuff, and then Trump walks into her, and the rest is
walks in.
Okay, that's what he used to do, right? He used to walk back into the Miss World pageant while these girls were changing clothes. I mean, this is the kind of guy that we have leading our country, folks, or misleading our country. So earlier on January 23 now, 2025, this is like 3 days after Trump took office, Judge John Covenor had issued a 14-day temporary restraining order against the same executive order. So now that has been reinforced by District Judge Deborah Boardman. The second one that was batted down recently was the federal aid freeze. So on February 1st, 2025, Judge John J. McConnell of the U.S. District Court for the District of Rhode Island temporarily blocked the Trump administration's attempt to freeze federal aid funding. This ruling followed an earlier administrative stay granted by U.S. District Judge Lauren Ali Khan on January 30, 2025, which paused the freeze for a week. And for you Trumpers out there, Judge Lauren Ali Khan, her father came from India. He went from India to Pakistan. So she has got a South Asian background. And then they migrated over here. And by the way, folks, she was born in the country before these stupid orders started coming in. So you can't send her back. Okay. So both of okay.
Yeah, that's always the answer. Send them back to their country.
Send them back to their country. Yeah, where? Okay.
The country they live in?
Yeah.
And were born in?
Yeah, both of these executive orders now are facing significant legal challenges, with federal judges deemed likely unconstitutional or lacking proper legal authority. Okay. Yeah. So that's a couple of them that were batted down. Let's look at what other executive orders have faced legal challenges recently. So a number of he's throwing everything at the wall, hoping that something will stick.
Yep.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And it is all about the shiny object. And meanwhile, what they're doing is they are really going in under the radar and trying to just go ahead and take everything that we have in our country away from us.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, there is a strategy to this, right? We have a different makeup of the Supreme Court this Trump term versus the 2016 term. So what they're doing is intentional. They want these lawsuits brought. Mm-hmm. So they're directing lawsuits at Illinois and Cook County and Chicago for sanctuary city laws, which they lost when they did it in 2017 against California. And so now they want to relitigate this stuff. And Russ O'Voy in his testimony in front of the Senate said that this idea of impoundment, of being able to go in and do what you want with the money that Congress allocates, they lost this. This has been deemed constitutional by the Supreme Court as it sat in 2017, 2018. And what they want to do is his answer to questioning about this was, well, we disagree with it. The president disagrees with it. Yeah. So we're going to go through a policy process, which is basically to try to relitigate in front of a Supreme Court that we know doesn't have a plain reading of the Constitution when it benefits these right-wing policies.
Yep, and it is our money that is being wasted, folks. So here's the other thing, okay? The federal grant freeze now, this order aimed to pause federal financial aid programs for programs like Medicaid, Head Start for 90 days, right? Federal judges have issued temporary restraining orders citing potential violations of constitutional and statutory provisions. Ban on transgender military service. So this executive order now reinstates a ban on transgender individuals serving in the military, reversing Biden-era policies. And now this executive order is coming from Mr. Bone Spurs, who refused to serve our country when it was needed, right?
His dad got him waivers.
Yeah, his dad got him waivers. So the legal challenge is now alleged that the order violates free speech rights and federal civil rights laws. Critics argue that it is overly broad and vague. So the Schedule F, federal employee reclassification, that's a big one. This order reintroduces Schedule F, allowing easier dismissal of certain federal employees by reducing their job protections. So now lawsuits from federal employee unions claim it undermines due process and civil service protections. Folks, we got to keep our eyes open on what is really happening and where the ball is. Okay, don't let the shiny objects take it away from you as to, everything is going good. And by the way, we're also going to look at how have federal judges justified their decisions to block these executive orders. We may not have the time to look at all of these things today. Again, in a 1 hour, we can only bring in so much stuff. What are the implications of these blocked executive orders and federal funding and aid? How have states responded to these blocked executive orders? What legal arguments did the Trump administration use to defend these executive orders? And these are the kind of things that we'll be getting into. And 9:30 is coming up, and we have Maria Mozaffar joining us. Let's go ahead and introduce you to
While she's being introduced, I just want to say about...
Are you tired of hearing the same old talking points? Ready to dig deeper into the headlines that shape our nation? Join us on Breaking the Echo Chamber, a fresh, fearless segment on the Lightning Strike radio show. Every Sunday at 9:30 a.m., Maria Mozaffar takes you beyond the noise and beyond the divides. She'll break down the nation's biggest legislative stories, unpacking the truth behind the spin and exploring perspectives that matter to you. Tune in to the Lightning Strike on WCPT 820 AM and be part of the conversation that challenges the status quo. Don't miss Breaking the Echo Chamber, where the echo stops and the dialogue begins.
Good morning, folks, and good morning. Maria, welcome to the Lightning Strike. What is the echo chamber happening now? What is echoing?
Good morning. First of all, I can never get tired of the voice of the intro. It's very well done. Thank you so much.
Who is that?
Who is that guy?
Hey, don't forget who wrote the script for that.
And who wrote the script?
There you go.
No, awesome team.
Okay.
So let me start out by saying this. I think we need to take a step back and look at the strategy that we're seeing come forth. So, as you had said, Muhammad, the judge had stated, and as far as blocking some of these executive orders, that these orders are more vague and overly broad. They're not specific enough. And and so they've been blocked, and they're overstepping his powers in the executive. What I want us to think about is which legislations or executive orders he's putting forth are vague and which ones are specific.
Okay.
And then think about the narrative that we talked about last time, that it's about pushing a thought process to the nation to kind of start people thinking in a certain way about who the nation is, who we are, diversity, etc. So there's two ways where you change where the country is going. You do it by strict regulation and you just shove it down people's throats, or you start getting people thinking a certain way. And so he's done both. These executive orders have done both. So I'll start with the first one that's specific, and that is the end of transgenders in sports and protecting women's and girls' sports. There was a huge gathering in the White House of women athletes, and this was specifically to protect Title IX, to not have discrimination regarding sex in any education programs. And what you'll see behind him when he's speaking is a lot of female athletes that strongly feel that there has been an opening for men to come in and compete with women.
Maria, would you like to know the statistics on how many athletes nationwide actually fall under that?
Yes.
10.
So this
10.
This is what's very powerful, right? You have 10 cases, but the amount of support that he has received publicly to support such a move is huge. And this is something that he says again and again. I mean, the press secretary says this. This is an extremely popular position. This is an extremely popular position. And it was very specific. And I will say there are two arguments to the side to this issue, absolutely. But let's talk about the way the narrative was created. You said there were only 10 cases, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. But why was it so easy to move forward with this move and have so many female athletes behind him standing there that day, and then also a overwhelmingly verified statement that this is an extremely popular position? And I think in these cases we have to see that even if the cases are minimal, the fact that you can create a story around what an executive order actually means and what it's going to change, and it's protecting female athletes, is extremely, extremely compelling. And this is what we see again and again when people are surprised. Storytelling is very, very critical. And when you're in an echo chamber again and again, you forget what the other side is listening to, hearing, and feeling compelled to act on. Right?
The only thing I'll offer is you say storytelling, I say propaganda.
Okay,
so that's part of the problem, is that for decades now, right-wing media, and now, most of this stuff is really online, long-form, Joe Rogan-ish, that beats the hell out of and says this is a problem, they're everywhere, and creates this hysteria, but has no basis in fact or truth. And so storytelling is I think too passive a way to put it, because it's propaganda. This is the things we see in other countries, like Orban had done very recently in Hungary, obviously Putin, obviously North Korea, China, and this is what we're facing now as people who believe in freedom and constitutional order, that they're beating the hell out of a narrative that doesn't reflect what's really going on in our society.
So let me challenge this a little bit, right? Like, we go back to this, we've talked about this detailed case of hate crimes that happened in our community, and this detailed case of hate crime against this 6-year-old boy, Wadel Fayumi, that's Palestinian and Muslim. And once you highlight that case as an illustration of hate, you can argue, yeah, but that's just one 6-year-old boy that was stabbed. So I'm just challenging you from that perspective, because the argument that there's only 10 cases isn't going to fly to people that take the issue very seriously or have been impacted by it. They'll say, one case is not enough, right? And that's what makes these stories compelling, is that when you take that one case and you elevate it. I mean, the same case as Matthew Shepard, right? Matthew Shepard, when that case happened, it was there was of course so much hate in the nation, but that case illustrated something that compelled a movement. And so what I'm saying is, with this specific one, they will argue, people that really support this initiative, that don't call it propaganda, because I know that my girl is not being able to compete with others at the level that she's supposed to, because there is a boy, or the potential of a man or a boy to be able to create a hierarchy of her skill set based on the fact that she's a girl or a woman. So I just want to say that. I mean, that's what we have to really get in the nuances on that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the clip that you played about I want the bureaucrats to be seen as villains. If that's not storytelling, I mean, that's the part of storytelling. We look at USAID. I mean, I think let's take USAID and the story about the fact that we have all these government officials going in different countries and spending money, hanging out at cafes and just having a great time, and using U.S. tax dollars, right? I think it's fascinating to create a story like that, to the point where, like you said, I cannot believe we saw on camera that they've changed the sign of USAID. That's all part of storytelling. We're kicking out the corrupt. We're kicking out the people that are taking our money. But the facts are, how many people and how many individuals have been helped by USAID. And in fact, I remember speaking to representatives from USAID, and I said, does it help you when you go into these different parts of the world to be seen a little bit different from the U.S. government foreign policy in some issues?
Oh, yeah. USAID has way more benefits than just helping out the poor, because the people in those countries are looking at us as saviors, that we're saving their lives. And it's not the kind of thing you could just turn off the spigot on, because it takes a while to ramp back up. So you turn off the spigot now, you got thousands of people that are going to be affected immediately that they may never recover from.
And look at the long-term implications for us as a country. Okay, all the goodwill that has been built up over the past few decades now is going down the tube in just 1 month.
Well, you stole my fire here a little bit with the goodwill.
I always like to do that, John.
Well, I know you. Damn it, do that all the time. So what's rotting and perishing in our ports here and abroad are medicine, food, and goodwill. And that's when Kennedy created this back, in the 60s.
60s, yep.
He spoke to that very thing, that this is soft power, because the person coming and bringing food that's going to feed your children, if there's an American flag or an American presence behind that versus some other foreign entity, China and Russia right now China has been trying to defeat us in this field of play for decades. We just gave them the ball with no defense.
If there is a vacuum, something
it'll be filled.
Comes in to fill it.
So radicalization is now possible. Storytelling, right? That's how the story that's going to be told is America doesn't care about you. And now the people that might not have been radicalized are literally there to be. So the next terrorist attack is going to come back to this vacuum. And we are not safer now, because we've wasted all the money that's been put out in ports and on pallets, and now we don't have any presence there. Yeah. And everything can't be a military response because somebody bombs us.
Let's get right back to that. We're going to take a short break right here, and we'll be continuing the conversation on the other side.
Yes, folks. Interesting conversations going on over here. So while the break is going on at the station, again,
turn up the radio. There's some news that you should know. Let your friends and family go to 820 AM.
Have no fear with regard to renewable energy. If you own property, either residential or commercial, in Northern Illinois, you most likely qualify for massive federal, state, and utility incentives. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down this number, 630-785-0031. You can have a no-cost, no-obligation conversation with a ComEd green light expert that can help you figure out which incentives you qualify for. Again, call 630-785-0031 for a free, no-cost, no-obligation assessment. 630-785-0031.
Looking for personalized, family-friendly dental care? Visit Distinctive Family Dental in Joliet, where Dr. Sunil Karup and his expert team bring 25 years of experience and state-of-the-art technology to your smile. Unlike corporate-owned practices, we focused on tailored care for every patient, ensuring healthy teeth and perfect oral hygiene. Discover why families trust us for all their dental needs. Call 815-439-1270 or visit distinctivefamilydental.com today. Distinctive Family Dental, 2405 Essington Road, Suite D, Joliet, Illinois, 815-439-1270. Your smile deserves the best.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Fahim.
I am your host, Mohammed Fahim, coming to you live on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. We got about 15 or 20 minutes left in the show, but I want to continue with the thoughts that Maria and John were sharing. Please continue the conversation.
Well, I was just going to say, going into USAID, that I was saying that I spoke to USAID representatives, and they said, does it help you to divide that identity of the U.S. coming in and helping instead of, expanding for its own interest. And they said it is extremely valuable because not only do they learn about the United States in a different way, but we learn about them. And that's very critical, right? You have to learn about the different communities that are shaping this world, and we have to learn about how to interact and also what problems that they have. And this whole notion of the fact that we don't have to deal with other people's problems, it should be America first. Well, I think a big priority is what the world thinks about the nation and what the world really understands about who and what the priorities are. I mean, let's look at the executive order. I don't know if you saw this about South Africa. And the notion that South Africa is discriminating against white farmers. Now, compelling for a white farmer that can see themselves in the white farmer in South Africa. So very well narrated as far as an issue. So those white farmers are very, very relevant and are very, very necessary according to the administration. But the thousands of people that need help, that have been relying on services and help from USAID around the world are not necessary. So
Would it help if we deported the undocumented President Musk back to South Africa? Do you think that he could help them out? I'm sorry. I'm being
this is why Ken is very, but yeah.
See, that's what Ken brings to the table.
I'm saying, you see
when
how
things get too serious.
So
storytelling.
you just said something I think that relates back to we heard from Richard McKinney in the beginning of the show.
Amazing, yes. Amazing person.
So he came back. I read the CNN story that was shared with us before the show, and he talks about how he had an idea of what the people in the Taliban, or in Iran and Afghanistan were. They were paper targets. He was indoctrinated in an idea that it's only military action. And it was only as he was walking up to that, the response of getting to know the people and feeling them, seeing them as human beings, that he was not processing those people that way as he was walking up. It was only through him understanding them, understanding what the real message of Islam or any religion, to be honest, is really about acceptance and love and seeing other people
Hey,
as
John,
human beings.
this is something that I keep on saying, that, we are all born in a faith, regardless of whether we desire it or not, and we have no control over who we are born as, right? I had no control being born in the family that I was born in. You had no control being born in the family that you were born in, right? We had no choice.
Yeah.
So the same God is sending this same message of humanity and everybody trying to help each other throughout the centuries. Okay. That's what Islam believes in, by the way. We believe in all the prophets all over throughout the centuries and the same message coming in from one God for all of us. Okay.
And that's
As long
what, and
as you
that
are a
sanctuary,
Christian-
the sanctuary of religion, right? That every religion talks about offering sanctuary to others, to those you don't know. And to bring it back to USAID, this is what it does. Not in a secular way, but it brings a message. Not only here's what America's ideals are, but also who are you? And we get to know them. And I think the message from our new administration is we don't have to get to know anybody. We just have to know who we are. We are white. We are Christian. We are nationalists.
And here's the thing,
and that's all. That's how there are hierarchy, and everything else is subservient to that.
And I
that's
totally
the
agree
danger.
with you on that, John. That's the problem that we are facing over in the country now. And it is designed to make these oligarchs richer than what they already are. Okay,
I would love to know how much Russell Voigt has invested in the oil companies. We're never going to see that kind of transparency and understand it anymore. But this is what this is about. It's about capitalism, not about a national agenda of safety. It's about how can they exploit the resources of Greenland or South Africa or any other country.
And Green
because
Bay,
we're American, we should
let's not forget Green Bay, Michigan.
And Green Bay. Well, Green Bay is
okay.
But I think what a disservice really for us not to be able to capture the moment and control the narrative as much as we can, because these lives are so important. I mean, USAID, I think what is happening is just a result of dehumanization. These lives are not really worth helping. They're not necessary. And then what a disservice to actual white farmers that may be being discriminated. I don't know the facts on that. I have to do research on that. But let's say they are being discriminated. What a big disservice to them to be able to use them in this way and use that case in that way to create a narrative where you're ultimately creating race wars, right? Let's protect them and let's take away aid from somebody else.
But that's the storytelling that we see around DEI, right? They want to wipe this away because they're like, oh, it's victimizing us poor white males.
Yeah, it all comes down to racism. Clear and simple. It's all racist.
But
and that's where you get people's emotions up. That's why you get people to jump onto drinking the Kool-Aid and going to the other side. You have to have a victim, just like Hitler had to have a scapegoat in the Jews back in the 30s. It's the same concept. That's how they get the power, because you were part of the team then.
Yeah, somehow they're being taken, that we're losing something because somebody else is getting something. Except it's a leveling of the
I think everybody listening today should really think about McKinney's story in such a personal way, because it just shows you that no matter what comes down as far as propaganda, narrative, messaging, storytelling, or actual real stories that matter and are true, is that individuals themselves have the ability to break the echo chamber, right? He broke the echo chamber.
Absolutely right.
He took it upon
so
himself.
Absolutely right on that. And on that note, folks, again, remember that, and this is something that I have preached all my life, John. I had no choice being born who I was. You had no choice being, born who you were. If you practice the message that Jesus brought and be the best Christian that you can be, you're going to be a better human being than anybody who is not practicing their faith. Okay? I don't care what faith, but every faith tells you to respect humanity.
Muhammad, doesn't matter.
We got
They're
to
all
be
the same
there for
message.
each other, man. We live in this little, sphere in space. We're not going to get away from here. Elon Musk wants to take people to Mars. Okay, I hope that he takes the current administration.
He can go anytime.
No, and take the entire
he can
team.
Be the sole citizen.
The entire team of Doge and Boge and the clown and the whip master or whatever, the ringmaster. Everybody, please go to Mars. Okay.
But I want to highlight
Okay.
what Ken always says too. You know that
Yeah.
like these things happen and they're effective and they gain momentum by populace because there's a vacuum of education on these issues, right? I mean, just imagine there's 19 and 20-year-olds having access to the Treasury for efficiency purposes. I mean, there's just a lack of knowledge what that actually
and
means.
blatantly racist individuals
I
that
will
we've
put
seen.
the efficiency under quotes. Okay. Because these guys are not going there for efficiency. I'm telling you, they're just trying to dig into our background. Now, knews.com was reporting yesterday that Elon Musk recently announced, Elon Musk, not the president, not Congress, not the chief of staff or whatever, Elon Musk has announced the elimination of the General Services Administration's tech arm, 18F, which helped develop the IRS direct file program. Just look at this, okay? The program championed by Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts, faced criticism from conservatives as a form of government overreach. Musk confirmed on X that 18F was disbanded, claiming that the move was part of his efforts to eliminate inefficiencies and reduce government expenses. Musk said that group has been deleted. I mean, Musk.
Yeah, and who is Musk? Musk
Did
has
we
no
elect this guy
constitutional
called
authority
Elon Musk
to do anything. He's
Okay.
just a guy, and everybody he looks at everything as he spent $290 million
dollars or whatever,
to
yeah.
buy our federal government. He bought X, and he's operating exactly as he's done with Tesla. He doesn't invent anything. He buys things and then uses them in a capitalist way to make more money for himself.
John, very simply, he bought the puppet strings.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
so,
and by
but,
the
but
way,
that's not constitutional.
Yeah.
And that's where these lawsuits have to go to establish who gets to walk in and rewrite the base code for the Treasury servers. And that's what these 20-year-olds are doing. These people don't even have fully formed brains and clearly don't have fully formed ideas on humanity when they're issuing racist tweets.
That is the quote of the week. These people don't even have properly formed brains at 20 years.
I could just imagine myself at 20 years old in that position. I mean, really? No, I mean, I wouldn't even trust myself at that
It's
point.
just too much, and I think anyone who's in law school right now or has a child thinking about law school, please send them to law school.
Yeah,
Like-
we're going to need you.
I mean, please send them to law school.
Speaking of law school, one quick thing I wanted to mention. This is
Not
kind of
the Yale.
scary. Alito and Thomas, the news scuttlebutt is they're going to be resigning shortly, so we're going to get a couple more right-wing justices for who knows how long, in the Supreme Court.
Well,
So-
we got 5 minutes to go before we end the show, folks. And don't forget Super Bowl, okay? I don't know if I'm going to be watching it because Musk, it seems, has bought 5 ads for $40 million. $40 million. And people are going nuts over he's spending his own money to let people
What a
know
generous,
what is
generous
happening.
soul.
Folks, don't get fooled by that he's spending his own money, okay? He's going to take that as a business expense and a write-off.
Yeah.
So
It's
not
also
paying
interesting
any
that
money
Trump
from
is
his
supposed to
pocket.
attend,
Yeah.
and he forced the NFL to take off hashtag end racism from being stenciled in the end zones.
Oh wow!
Did you hear
I
about
didn't
this
know
story?
That.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we wouldn't want to do that.
No, because racism
that's
is
now
like
federal
one of their
policy.
platform. They didn't have a platform in the Republican Party, but I think racism, if there was one, would be the main one.
Start with racism. And
Well,
build from there.
and I don't want to, again, folks, I always say this every Sunday, I don't want to diss on all Republicans. There are some very good Republicans, but they have been taken over by this cabal now. Okay. Likewise, the Democratic Party have got to get their act together. They can either let this thing go on and let them burn themselves out, the Republicans, with all of these idiotic ideas, or they can, put up their spine and fight back against it. Chuck Schumer is coming in with some ideas now. Hakeem Jeffries is starting to get up and take. But I don't hear anything from the legacy leaders. Obama is not saying anything, okay, because he does not want them to come and dig into his background. Pelosi is not saying anything. None of these so-called Democratic Party leadership is saying anything to counter the narrative that is being held out. Bernie is coming out openly like he always does. He has nothing to lose. Okay, maybe we need to have our Democratic Party leaders take a look into their own things and see, why are we not saying anything?
I think that's a really, really good point.
That is, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about the Republicans. I voted on both sides of the aisle, by the way. I'm not just a pure left fanatic. I look at who's doing the right thing for my future and best interest when I do vote. The Republicans have to develop a spine. They have to look at the real world situation and stand up. I think Mitch McConnell has started to go a little bit more on the side of sanity, but it has to be more pronounced. People, this is important. This is our future. We can't just drink the Kool-Aid and let it go down the spiral.
Well, on that note, folks, local elections are coming up. So April 1st, there's going to be local elections in most of the municipalities and towns. Some elections, like in Aurora, is in March. Pay attention to your local candidates. So especially, we're not going to be able to cover the entire, state of Illinois. But the town that I live in, Plainfield, for example, we are creating a page of our website for the radio where we are listing all the candidates that are running for all positions of all parties in the village and township of Plainfield. So that page should be active, I guess, in a couple of days. But regardless, go to your village website. Try to get involved in what is happening in the city and the village that you live in. Don't let these people make the decisions for you. Local elections matter. If you look at your tax bill, 80% of your taxes are going to local bodies. Okay, school district, park district, library district, the local property taxes that you're paying, the fire district, the sanitary district. The federal taxes are only a small sliver, a small percentage of that. So pay attention to local politics. Start off at roots, and then we can make a difference at the federal level.
And just like Ken was saying, focus on the individual and the policies and what they represent. Don't play this game again where you get caught into this situation where you feel like the person representing you, just because they have a specific party, is going to be good.
Yeah, they have a D or an R.
We cannot afford that anymore. We just can't afford that. We could have never afforded it, actually. It's caused tons of problems.
So local level folks, go and vote for the best person to represent you. Remember, at the end of the day, we are not Republicans or Democrats or Libertarians. My passport says U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
That is what my passport says. Okay.
I'll just offer, when you go vote, you have to vote from a point of being informed. Yeah. And the problem is, change the freaking channel. Right?
Okay.
I turn on Fox News for 5 minutes if I can, but you got to change the channel from the
Okay, we are running out of time, folks, and we'll be joining you again here next Sunday, same time, same place. Stay tuned. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for coming in.
Ciao.
Lightning strikes, my friend. Catch it in a bottle.
The preceding program, The Lightning Strike, was sponsored by Mohammed Fahim, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of Heartland Signal, LLC, or its management.